today's video tutorial of Clara the Chicken from Likey's new Amitami line. I am so excited to get into this with you, but before we start, let me open up the kit and show you everything you can expect to receive when you order one of these kits. So this is an overview of everything that is included inside of your Clara the Chicken kit. So first of all, of course, we have the instructions, which we will be going over these step by step later. So if you want to follow along, they are here for you, as well as we have our main color yarn. This is our orange, and then we do have color A and B in this bag here, as well as color C, which is black here, and a darning needle as well. We also have our crochet hook for the project. We're going to be using a 2.5mm hook, so that's here for us, and of course the perfect amount of stuffing for our project. So that is everything we're going to be using today, and without further ado, let's get right into making Clara the Chicken. If you plan on following along with me while I'm reading you the instructions, you can look at them here, and also there is a really helpful conversion chart as well as abbreviations. So if you need anything clarified, you can find it all on the instruction sheet, and there is an assembly guide on the back. So we'll get into that much later, but I'm going to put that aside for now and grab our orange yarn, which is our main color, and we are going to get right into starting the first round. Now I do also actually need to open this kit up here because with our darning needle inside as well, I forgot to mention that we do have a stitch marker in here. So this is going to be very helpful for us during our project to mark our rows and make sure our project is worked evenly and all of our rows are the same size. So this will be very helpful for us, but let's get right into it. So I'm just going to get a little bit of yarn started here for us, and we will begin row 1 of Clara. So it says with our main color, we chain 3, and into the second chain from the hook, make 6 single crochets, mark the last stitch, and move the marker each round. So we are going to do just that. So to create our chain, we first need to make a slip knot, and to make a slip knot, we need to go ahead and place 2 fingers out like this, place the yarn over our fingers, clamp it down, wrap this around, back over our middle finger and to the front. So we have 2 strands here, and we have a nice little crisscross like that. So again, one more time, 2 fingers out, yarn over our hand here, clamping it down with our thumb, wrapping it around, making sure they cross like that. And we have our yarn back here. We're securing it with our ring finger, and we're going to go underneath that first strand of yarn, grab that second strand and pull it through with our hook, just like that. Then we can pull our fingers out. Perfect. And we can just tighten this up, and that is going to create our slip knot, which is perfect for our chaining. So after we do that, we just need to chain up 3. So we go 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Now these chains are a little bit tricky to see in the beginning, but as we work, they'll get a little bit more clear, so don't worry too much. But into that second chain from the hook, we need to put 6 single crochet. Now the chain on the hook does not count as a stitch, so we don't need to worry about that one. So we have 1, 2, and we're gonna work right into here. Hi guys, I'm coming at you a different day. As you can see, the nails have changed and my shirt is different, but unfortunately this part of the tutorial did not focus for some reason, so I'm going to go over it with you again because I want to show you how to make a single crochet if you're not familiar. So I do apologize that this part of the tutorial is a little bit different, but everything else will be the same day. So let's go ahead and make our single crochet. So we need to make 6 single crochet in the second chain from the hook. The loop on the hook does not count as a stitch, so we'll count back 2 chains, 1, 2, and into that second chain, you're going to push through the chain. So you have 2 loops on your hook right now, yarn over like that, pull that yarn through that hole we have made, yarn over again, and pull through. That's going to be 1 single crochet. So let's do that again. Into that same chain space, we're working all 6 of these in the same space. We're going to yarn over and pull through the stitch, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over and pull through. That's number 2. Let's do that again. Into the stitch, grab the yarn and pull up the loop, yarn over and pull through. That's number 3. We have a couple more. All right, into the stitch, pulling the yarn up, yarning over and pulling through. Number 4. Into the same stitch, pulling the yarn up, 2 loops on the hook, pulling through. That's 5. And let's do our last single crochet for number 6. Into that same space, we're grabbing the yarn, maybe, there we go, pulling up a loop, yarning over and pulling through. That is number 6. So now we have our 6 single crochet. You're going to take your stitch marker and we will insert it into our last stitch. This way we know when we have reached the end of every single round. And now we will get back to the other part of the tutorial. Again, so sorry to have to pop in here, but unfortunately the camera did not focus on this most important part. So I will see you back into the tutorial. There we go. We have 6 single crochet and now we have this little circle, so we can move on to round 2. So for round 2, we need to make 1 increase in every stitch. So we are going to have a total stitch count of 12 after this round, 12 single crochet. So into our very first stitch of the row, so the stitch right after that stitch marker we made, we're going to add 1 single crochet into that space. And then into that same exact space, we're going to add 1 additional single crochet, and that creates a single crochet increase. So that's 2 stitches in that 1 stitch. So we're going to repeat that all the way around. So into this next stitch, we're going to place 2 single crochets into that stitch as well. And there we go. Of course, into the next stitch, we're going to do the same. And like I said, we're going to repeat this all the way around the circle until we have 12 single crochet. Okay, perfect. We're at the last stitch of our round. I'm just going to remove the stitch marker quickly just to place 2 single crochet in that last stitch. And we know now that we have 12 single crochet. We can put our stitch marker back in. And we can move on to round 3, which is going to be 1 single crochet in the next stitch and an increase in the next stitch 6 times for a total of 18 stitches. So we are going to kind of do what we did earlier, but we're going to place 1 single crochet in that first stitch after the stitch marker, just 1 there like that. Then into that next stitch, we're going to place a single crochet increase. So this is where we're going to place 2 single crochets into that 1 stitch like we were doing last round. Perfect. So then we're going to do that again. So into the next stitch is just a single crochet, and into the following stitch is 2 single crochet. Perfect. And you are going to work that all the way around until we have 18 stitches, and I will meet you back here for round 4. Now round 3 is also complete, so we can move on to round 4, which round 4 says single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then an increase times 6, and we're going to have a total stitch count of 24 after this round. So just to get that started, into that first stitch, we are going to work 1 single crochet, just like that, and then another 1 single crochet into the next stitch, like that. And into the following stitch, we're going to work a single crochet increase. So that will be 2 single crochets in 1 stitch. And that is the pattern for this round. So again, we'll do 1 single crochet into the next stitch, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and then 2 single crochet into the following stitch. And you'll repeat that all the way around, and I will meet you back here at the beginning of the round 4, round number 5. Okay, I'm to the end of round 4. I just removed my stitch marker, and I am going to finish up by placing 2 single crochets into that last space there. And I will put my stitch marker back into that final stitch, and we can begin round 5. So for round 5, it says we need to do a single crochet into the next 3 stitches and then 1 increase for a total of 30 stitches. So to do that, we are going to do the same thing we were doing by placing 1 single crochet in the first stitch, 1 single crochet in the next stitch, and 1 single crochet into that 3rd stitch, and then we can do our increase next. So we will increase by 1 by placing 2 single crochets into that stitch, and then we will repeat that again. So into that next stitch, 1 single crochet, into the next stitch, 1 single crochet, into the next stitch, 1 single crochet, and into that next stitch we do an increase. So we do 2 single crochet into that stitch, and go ahead and repeat that for the entire round. I will meet you back here. We'll have a new stitch count of 30 by that time. All right, and we are back to the final stitch of round 5. So into that last space, I'm just going to place 2 single crochets. I already removed my marker, so I could do that with you really quick. I'll put my marker back into that very last one we made and close it up, and that is the end of round 5. So you can really start to see our circle taking shape, as well as you can start to see our stitches a lot better. So that's just something I wanted to point out. Makes it a lot easier once you work up a few more rows. So now we are on to round 6, and we are going to make 1 single crochet into the next 9 stitches and then an increase. We're going to do this 3 times for a stitch count of 33. So let's do that together. Into our first stitch here we have 1, and we're just going to count these out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 single crochet, and then into that next space is our first increase of this round, so a little bit different than what we've been used to, just like that. Repeat that 2 more times. I'll meet you back here at the stitch marker and we will begin around 7 through 9. Okay, here I am at the last stitch of this round and I just worked my 9 single crochet, so into that last space is going to be my increase. And that is going to be the end of this round. So now we have 33 stitches, placing my stitch marker back here, and we can move on to our repeat round. So for 3 rounds, we're going to make 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way around. So that is just as simple as it sounds. We're just going to begin working 1 single crochet into the next stitch. There's no increases in this round, and you're going to do this for 3 rounds total. So I kind of recommend you either make a little tally, either you can make it on the pattern or on a scrap piece of paper on your phone, just so you have an idea of which round you're on, because you can very easily get confused or forget which round you are working. So I highly recommend, especially if you're going to be counting your stitches as you go, it's a lot of numbers to keep track of. So make sure you keep moving your stitch marker every round just to help you out even more. But I will meet you back here at the end of my 3 rounds and we will begin the next round, which is going to be round 10. Okay, I am back after my 3 rounds of working 1 single crochet in each stitch for 33 stitches. I thought I would just mention really quickly, you are going to start to see a little bowl forming, and that is perfectly normal. When you don't work any increases, you are building up the sides of the body of the hen, so that is completely how it's supposed to look versus how we were making a flat circle before. So if you're seeing this, everything is good. You also might notice as you are working up your bowl, you're having to work on the inside, which can be a little bit difficult. So what I did is I just pushed mine out from like this to this, and so now I'm actually working on the outside of my work, which just seems to be a lot easier for me. It's really personal preference, but you can go ahead and push yours out and you're working on the outside if you prefer to do that as well. It's completely though up to you and personal preference. So we are going to work the next round, which is round 10, and for this round we're going to work 1 single crochet in the next 10 stitches and then an increase 3 times for 36 stitches total. So to do that, we're just going to go into our first stitch, of course, and we're going to work 1 single crochet for the next 10 stitches. So that was 2, here's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then we'll work our increase after that 10th stitch. So there we go. We're going to do that 2 more times, or 3 times total, and I will meet you back at the beginning of the row again with our 36 stitches. Okay, I'm at the last stitch of my round, removing the stitch marker and placing my 2 single crochet into that stitch for our last set of a repeat, and now we have 36 stitches. So for the next round, which is going to be round 10 and 11, so for 2 rounds we're going to work 1 single crochet in every stitch for 36 single crochet. So very similar to as we were doing for round 7 through 9, where we worked 1 single crochet in every stitch. We're going to do the same thing, just with now 36 instead of 33. So I'll meet you back here in 2 more rounds with our 2 rounds of 36 single crochet completed. Okay, so I have now completed rounds 11 and 12, and we are ready for round 13. So we're going to do something a little bit different for this round. We're going to be working into the back loop. So our instructions are to single crochet into the next 5 stitches and then an increase into the next stitch. We're going to do that 6 times for 42 single crochet. So we are working this entire round in the back loop, which means we are just going to go into the second part of the stitch. So typically we go through the full stitch like that, or we go through the 2 little strands you can see here, but this time we're just going to go through the back of that V here. So back loop only, that's what that means. Yarn over and pull through, just a very regular single crochet after that point, but we're going to create like a little bit of a ridge on here so we can work the neck feathers afterward, but that's 1 single crochet, and then we'll do the same thing all the way around. There's 2, 3, 4, and 5, And then into that next stitch, we're going to do an increase. So go ahead and complete that for the entire round, making sure you're only working through the back loop of all of these stitches, and I will meet you back here at the beginning of the round and we'll continue on with the pattern. Okay, so we've come to the end of round 13 of working into the back loop. You can start to see it a little bit here, but you can really feel it more than you can see it. So we do have that little ridge line there, which is great, and we are ready to start our next set of repeat rounds. So we are no longer working in the back loop only. We're going to go back to regular single crochet, and it says for the next 9 rounds we're going to work 1 single crochet in each stitch. So that means we have 42 stitches all the way around, so 42 single crochets per row for 9 rows. So I'm going to do that really quickly. I will meet you back here after the end of those 9 rounds, and we will begin decreasing Clara's body and finishing her off. So her little body is almost done. So I'll meet you back here, like I said, in 9 more rounds. Make sure you're tallying and keeping track of what round you're on so you don't lose track. All right, here we go. We have 9 rounds worked of the body portion, and we are ready for round 23. We're going to start decreasing, which is something we haven't done yet. So let's of course do it together. So round 23 reads single crochet into the next 5 stitches and then a single crochet decrease 6 times for a total of 36 stitches total. So into the first stitch, we're going to do as normal, 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, 3, 4, 5, and after our 5th single crochet, we're going to decrease the next 2 stitches. So to do a decrease, you insert into the first stitch as normal, grab your loop, pull up your loop, so now you have 2 on the hook, and with these 2 on the hook, you're going to go into that second stitch, push through, grab the yarn again, pull up. Now with 3 loops on the hook, you can yarn over and pull through, and that'll create a decrease. So let's do one more. So we have 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, 3, 4, and 5, and we're ready for our next decrease. So over the next 2 stitches, we'll do the decrease. Into that first stitch, pull up a loop. Into the next stitch, pull up another loop, 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through. That is a decrease. So we'll continue this all the way till we get back to our stitch marker as usual, and we will move on to round 24. Okay, I just made my last decrease and I have my stitch marker in place, and we are ready for round 24, which is going to be very similar to the last round. We're going to do a single crochet into the next 4 stitches and then another decrease 6 times for 30 stitches total. So just like before, we're going to work 1 single crochet into that first stitch, into the next stitch, 1 single crochet, 1 single crochet into the next stitch, and 1 more single crochet into that 4th stitch as stated, and then over the next 2 stitches we will do our first decrease just like that, and we'll repeat this for the entire round. I will meet back up with you at the end of round 24. All right, I just worked the end of round 24. I'm putting my stitch marker back in, and now we only have 30 stitches left in our body. So you can see our hole is starting to get quite a bit smaller. So now what we're going to do is actually grab our stuffing that we have off to the side. I'm going to open it really quickly, and I am going to actually just start pulling it apart, and I'm going to gently start stuffing Clara a little bit, because as this circle starts to get smaller, it does become more challenging to add the stuffing in. So just for a little bit of, ease and convenience, I'm going to stuff her now while I can. I'm still going to leave quite a bit of room, because as it gets smaller we can continue to stuff her, but at least the majority of the body here will be stuffed and ready for us. So just grab just a little bit more here. Don't want to go overboard with it, but I do like my plushies just a little bit firmer in general. So, okay, there we go. I think that's plenty for now. I don't want to get it in the way of my stitches, because then we will pull some of it through to the front. We don't necessarily want that either. So I can add my hook back in here. Whoop, got the stitch marker there. Okay, and we are going to move on to round 25. So for round 25, we're going to do a single crochet in the next 3 stitches and a decrease. So you're starting to see a pattern. In the same way we increased, we're decreasing in the same exact fashion. So 1 single crochet, 2, and then 3, and a decrease. Go ahead and repeat this for the entire round, and I'll meet you back here at the beginning of next round, and we'll work our next round of decreasing. Okay, so that is round 25 done. Now round 26 is very similar. Again, we're gonna do a 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then a decrease 6 times. So our stitch count will now be 18 single crochet. So as we were, 1, 2, and a decrease, and go ahead and repeat that all the way around. I'll meet you back here at the end of this round. Okay, so we're at the end of this round and I'm gonna just stuff her a little bit more again. So just take some more of this stuffing and push this in. Now that again our hole is starting to really close up, this next round it's gonna get a lot smaller too. So go ahead and add as much or little as you want. Okay, that is perfect for me. I added my hook back in and I'm ready for the next round, which is a single crochet and then a decrease. So we are going to just work that into this next round with a single crochet here. Gets a little tricky at the end here with the stuffing, so you might have to kind of pull your work up a little bit out of the way so you don't catch that stuffing on your hook. Decrease there. Oh, I forgot to put my stitch marker back in. To go 2 stitches back because that is the last stitch of the round there. And then repeat that all the way around. 1 single crochet and a single crochet decrease until we get back to our stitch marker. All right, I just did my last decrease, and if you want to stuff even more, now is your last chance, so make sure you add some if you'd like it. You can remove your stitch marker. We no longer need that there, and I'm actually okay with mine. I don't think I really need any more stuffing. I'm pretty happy with how much I stuffed it, so I'm going to cut a little tail here to weave in the ends and close up this round, so we can cut that. Put the yarn to the side there. We'll need that in just a second, but for closing this up, we don't need it at the moment. So to finish off, we're just going to chain 1 here and pull the yarn all the way through. Tighten that down, and then we can grab the end here and our darning needle. I'm just going to thread this through. Perfect. And we'll close up our little hole here. So to close up the hole, what I like to do is I like to insert my needle through the front of the first stitch, and then through that second stitch, I like to push it back out to the front, from the back to the front there. And I'll just pull that through. There we go. So again, from this next stitch, I like to go in through the front, like that, and then the next stitch I come out through the front here. So it's just a nice little weaving pattern, and this way I can really cinch up this hole nice and tight. So in and out, in and out. Again, watch that stuffing, as you saw some almost got caught up there for me. And last time, in and out there. And I can just pull this and it'll close it up perfectly just like that. So now I'm just going to weave in this end and just secure that a little bit so it doesn't have any chance of coming undone here. Just a couple of times weave it through the body. Don't pull this too tight or you will start to kind of change the shape of our little chicken. So we don't want to do that, but that's plenty weaving in for me. So then I'm just going to cut the tail super close to the body, just like that. Push that aside and we have Clara's body all done, which looks so cute. So we're going to move on now to the neck feathers. So using our main color, which is going to be our orange again, we are going to hold the body upside down and slip stitch in the last unworked loops of round 13. So for round 1 and the only round for the neck feathers, we're going to chain 2, slip stitch into the next stitch. We're going to do that 42 times, so we'll have a total of 42 slip stitches and 84 chains. And then we'll fasten off and weave in our ends. So to do that, we need to find where we were working our back loop only, because now we're going to work actually in what's called the front loop only of that stitch. So if you have a little bit hard time seeing where that is, you can kind of take your hook and feel around. If you just go like this over, you will end up finding where those unworked loops are and the front of that front loop single crochet. So I am inserted into the front loop here and I'm going to grab my yarn. For this, we will need to just create our little slip knot. So we're putting our 2 fingers out, holding it down, pulling it over, and I'm already through the hole, but that's okay because I'm just gonna do it attached just like that. Let my fingers out and then pull it through there. So we're now officially ready to work round 1 of this neck feather, and we're gonna chain up 2 as the pattern said. 1, 2, and then slip stitch into the next stitch. Now the first couple of these are probably going to be just a little bit tricky, but as we work it, it'll be easy to kind of maintain that straight line. So just slip stitch through there. Okay, perfect. And we are ready to work again. So again, we're going to chain 2 and slip stitch through the next stitch. Perfect. Chain 2 and 2, slip stitch. Awesome. Again, chain 2, you get the idea. And like I said, as you do work it, it does get a little bit easier to kind of find that line. It's just the initial is a little bit tricky, but we're going to continue doing that all the way around until we meet back up here. And just for reference, if you're confused, this is the part we're doing right now. These are the little neck feathers. So I'm going to complete this entire round of making my little ruffle, and I'll meet you back here at the beginning of the round over here, and we'll fasten it off together. Okay, here I am back to the beginning. I just did my chain 2 and slip stitch into the next stitch, just like that, which is my very last stitch. Now I have my little neck feathers completed. I'm going to chain 1, and we're just going to weave in these little bit of ends here. So I can just cut a very small tail for that. Move my yarn out of the way here. Perfect. Just like that. And then I'm just going to actually tie these in one knot, these two ends, just to even help secure them a little more. And then I can just take my darning needle and the ends and weave them in really quickly here, just a couple of times. So let me do that really fast, and I'll meet you back here after we're done. And we are going to start the next part of the project, which is going to be working the little cheeks of our chicken. So I'll catch you back in 1 second for that. Okay, all my ends are tucked in safe and sound, and we have Clara's body. She's looking very, very cute. So I'm going to put her and our main color yarn aside. We won't need that again until we start working the wings. So for the cheeks, we're going to use color A, which is our red color right here. And of course, we're going to need our crochet hook. So for the cheeks, we're going to actually need to make 2 of these, and there is only 1 round of the cheeks. So they will work up nice and easy, but we'll work the first one together, and then you'll work a second one by yourself. But for round 1, we are going to use our color A and chain 3. So go ahead and make your slip knot like we have been doing and chain up 3. So the same way we started Clara's body, we're going to start these cheeks. And into our second chain from the hook, which is over here, we're going to go ahead and make 7 single crochet. I'm going to finish this up, and I will meet you back here in just a second. Perfect. Very easy. We just have a cute little circle for the cheeks here. And then all it says to do is to tug the tail to tighten the ring, which I actually just did without even knowing. And all we need to do is slip stitch into the first stitch to join, and that'll help us complete this round. So I'm going to slip stitch into there and fasten off. So to fasten off, we just chain 1 and cut a little tail for sewing it on later. And that's the cheek. So go ahead and make 1 more of these. I'll meet you back here, and we're gonna start working the comb of the chicken. All right, so now that we have 2 cheeks, we have our last little piece we need to make in the red, which is the comb. So to do that, we are going to go ahead and chain up 8. So make your slip knot like we have been doing, and chain 8 from there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now we're going to do a new stitch we haven't done yet together. So for this stitch, we are going to do a double crochet. So the next set of instructions is to skip 3 chains and do 3 double crochet slip stitch all into one. So we're going to skip 1, 2, 3. So into this next one, we're going to yarn over like this. We're going to insert into the stitch as usual. We're going to yarn over and pull a loop through like that. Then yarn over, and we're going to pull through just 2 of these loops of the 3 on the hook. So pull through 2, just like that. Yarn over again and pull through 2 more. That is a double crochet. So one more time, yarn over, go into that stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. So we have 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through just 2, yarn over and pull through 2 more. Oops, there we go. And then our last double crochet into that same little chain. So it's getting a little bit tight over here, but that's okay. And we're going to do one more double crochet there, and then we're going to end with a slip stitch into that same chain again. So we got a lot working in that one space, but that's okay. So now we have our 3 double crochet plus a slip stitch. So our next set of instructions for this row is to skip the next chain and do 4 double crochet, slip stitch into the next chain after that. So we're skipping that first little chain there, and into that next one we're going to do 4 double crochet this time instead of just 3. So we're going to go ahead and make those. This is going to make a very wavy little comb for the top of our chicken's head, so it'll be perfect. Once you get the hang of it, it's not too shabby either, not too hard. So that's 3, and we have 1 more here. Right, go ahead and complete that one, and then we need to put the slip stitch there too. So there we go. It's also going to start curling, which is okay, don't worry about that, because we're adding a lot of extra stitches to our chain 8. So we're going to skip 1 more chain here now, and then into our very last chain we're going to create our last set of double crochets. So we're going to double crochet 4, slip stitch again, and that'll create our comb. So there's 1 double crochet, and here's 2, 3, and last one here, number 4. Perfect. I'm going to slip stitch, and that is the end of the comb. So that means we can chain 1 again and cut a little tail for our comb here. And with that, we can actually put the red yarn aside because we do not need that again. So there we go. I'm going to put the comb over here with the rest of my work, move that out of the way, and I'm going to pull my yellow yarn forward, and we're going to start making the feet. So this is color B, and with color B, the first instruction for row 1 is to make the first toe. So here we go. Let's start round 1 and our first toe. I'm going to just create my slip knot like we have been doing. First set of instructions for round 1 is to chain 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to skip that first chain, and into the second chain we are going to make 1 single crochet, and we're going to make 1 single crochet into the next chain as well. So there we go. There's 1 and then 2. So we have 1 single crochet in each of the next 2 chains, and then it says into the following chain we are going to slip stitch. So that is going to be the end of round 1 here. Perfect, row 1. And then for our second toe we're going to chain 3. We're still keeping this all attached, so let's chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Perfect, just like that. And we are going to skip the first chain here and single crochet into the next 2 chains, 1 single crochet. So let's do that. 1 and 2. Perfect. All right, that's our second little toe there. You can see it coming together. And for our third toe, we are going to chain 2. So still we're attached to the same yarn here. And we are going to go ahead and skip the first chain, single crochet into the next chain. Perfect, so let's do that. All right, and then we're going to slip stitch into the first chain of row 1. So that is all the way back over here. So let's slip stitch into that. It's going to close up our little foot there, and now we have our 3 toes like that. And then we're going to fasten off and leave a tail to sew it on at the end. So I'm going to just cut my yarn about here, so I have plenty of room. Pull this through, and then I'm going to put this foot aside. I'm going to make 1 more, and I'll be back with you to make the wings. By the way, the foot should have this kind of like a Y shape to it almost. So if it looks like that, that means you did it right. Just wanted to mention that really quick. But I'm going to make the other foot. I'll be back in 1 second. Okay, here are my 2 little feet completed. I'm going to pop these aside, and I'm going to bring back the orange, which is the main color, because we are going to start the wings. So for the wings, we are going to chain 3, and in the second chain from the hook, we're going to make 6 single crochets. So very similar to what we have been doing. There's my chain 3, second from the hook, make 6 single crochet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Perfect, just like that. Now for the next round, we need to increase in every stitch all the way around. So we are going to have 12 single crochet now. So actually, I'm going to just make my first little stitch here for one, and then I'm going to place my stitch marker in that last stitch from the round, so 2 back actually. That way I won't lose my track while I'm counting, and I'm going to make one more single crochet into that space, so we have 2, and then I'm going to repeat this all the way around just like we did for the body. So when I have 12, I will meet you back here. Perfect. I just worked my last single crochet increase, so now I have 12 stitches. I pulled my tail a little bit to close up that hole because it was not super closed for some reason. So if you ever need to do that, go ahead and do so. Now for round 3, we are going to do a single crochet in the next stitch and then an increase, so we have 18 stitches total. So this is looking very familiar to the body of Clara, but there we have 1 and then our increase right after. This is going to give us 18 stitches in the end. So do that one more time. Our 1 single crochet and then our increase. I'm going to complete this round. I will meet you back at the end of the round again, and we will begin round 4 of the wing. Okay, I just finished round 3, so now round 4 is a single crochet in the next stitch and an increase in the next stitch, single crochet in the next stitch. So we haven't done this before, but this sequence is going to be 1 single crochet here. Into the next stitch, we're going to do 2 single crochet, just like that. And then into that following stitch is going to be 1 single crochet. So we're going to repeat this all the way around. So now this next stitch is going to be 1 single crochet again. Then we're going to do 2 single crochet. And then after that, we have 1 single crochet. So the only difference will be when we get back to the beginning of the round and this last stitch of the stitch marker, instead of this being an increase or a decrease like we're typically used to, it's going to be a 1 single crochet. So don't get a little bit thrown off by that. I know it's different than what we're used to, but it will mean that you did the row properly if you end on a single crochet. So I'm going to finish this up and I will meet you back here in just a second. All right, I'm to the last stitch. I'm going to remove my stitch marker and place 1 single crochet. So that means my round was made correctly. Now I don't actually need to put that stitch marker back in, so I can move it aside because we're going to fold the wing in half like this. Now this tail we can just kind of pull over here. We can just cut it off. It's not going to be important to us anymore, but it's kind of nice if you work over it because it kind of helps secure that little starting point we have here. But with it folded like this, we're going to work a single crochet all the way across, so we'll have 12 single crochet total, and we're going to work through both the front piece and the back piece, so both of these thicknesses here, to kind of sew them together, if you will. So here we go through that front piece and then through the back piece, just like that. Single crochet to close it. Perfect. Through the front, through the back. Make sure you're going through the front and back row every single time so you don't leave a gap. Work this all the way down here. Try to make sure you're lining up your front row here with your back row so that your wing is as even as possible, and we're not stuffing the wing because actually working these two together does kind of make its own little like thickness and padding, so there's no need for stuffing it. All right, we're almost done here. Perfect, last one right here, and see what I mean by working over this little tail here. So just throw that out of the way, work like that, and there you go. There's our little wing. I'm going to fasten this off. I'm going to snip that there, pull it through, and go ahead and make one more of these, and then we'll meet back up to do the tail feather and we can start assembling our Clara. All right, I worked my other wing and now we're on to the tail feather, which is going to be the last thing we need to work before we start assembling our chicken. So with our main color, go ahead and make your slip knot like we have been doing and chain up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now this is going to be very similar to our feet, so just have an idea of what we're up to. We're going to skip that first chain and we're going to single crochet into the next 2 chains, slip stitch into the last one. So let's do 1 and 2, and then into the last one, slip stitch, just like we did before. Perfect. And then while we're still connected, we're going to chain up 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Perfect. And we're going to skip the first chain, and then we're going to single crochet into the next 3 chains here. So let's do that. 1, 2, and 3. Perfect. And then after that, we are going to slip stitch into the next one, just like that. And that is the end of row 2. So now for row 3, we're going to chain up 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, just like row 1. And we need to skip the first chain, single crochet into the next 2 chains, and slip stitch into the final chain. So we'll do that. 1 single crochet, 2 single crochet, and slip stitch into that last one. Perfect. So now we have kind of like a T almost, if you will. So we can fasten this off and leave it for sewing. So I'm just going to leave a pretty nice little tail here, nothing too crazy. Pull that through, and we are officially ready to assemble our chicken. So I'm going to pull all of our parts forward, we'll look at it, and we'll start putting it all together. Okay, so we have all of our pieces of Clara the Chicken, and we are going to start the assembly process with the eyes. So it says, with color C, embroider eyes on round 8 of the body, leaving 8 stitches between them, making 3 stitches in the same place for the eye. So we're going to use our teeny tiny little bit of black yarn here. This is all we need. So we just need our darning needle, and we are going to go ahead and start the eyes. I like to kind of use the single crochets like as a grid. It really helps me kind of know where I want those stitches. So first thing we need to figure out is, well, first find what you like to be the front. I think this is a good front for me, but you can kind of turn yours and see where you like your front best. I'm going to do, actually I like right here. I'm going to do this side right here. So we need to count back 8 rows from the top. So this is round 1 where you see our swirl here, and we can just count forward. So we have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is row 8 right in this area here. So we need to be working right around this area, and we just need to pick any random spot on here, and then we'll count 8 stitches over to place the other eye. But to create the eye, I'm just going to go in through the top of that single crochet and out through the bottom of the same stitch. So we're only going to go through about 1 round's worth, leaving a little tail here because we'll need to weave that in. And then you're going to go ahead and go through that same space again, because it did tell us to go through about 3 times. So there we go. And we're going to do that again. And this, you can determine how many times you want to go through the eye. It's really up to you and your preference, but for me, that is the perfect amount. So now we need to count 8 stitches over, which is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm just going to put my nail here to be a placeholder for me, and I'm actually going to go underneath the work here, and I'm going to come out on this side over here like this. So you can see my needles coming out through here. Slide that all the way across. This way we don't have to cut off and weave in a whole bunch of extra ends. It's just unnecessary work for ourselves. So there we go. Now we're over here, and now we're going to work from the bottom up instead of the top down. So I'm going to come through the top of the stitch and still just doing 1 stitch because we want them to be even in height here. There we go. And let's go one more time here. Perfect. So I actually only did 2 instead of 3, but I think that looks so cute and so good. So now I'm just going to push this through and out the back here, and we can just cut this because that is all we needed to do for the eyes. So easy and so cute. If you have the little black tail like that, you can just push it into the project. It'll totally disappear. So let's do the same thing for this side here. All right, and I'll show you this too because I actually just pulled this one a little too tight when I was weaving in the end there. So I can just kind of go under the stitch here and pull it up a little bit. Don't pull too hard, but you can kind of pull the eye back forward if you accidentally pulled it down a little bit too much there. But there we go. We have both of our eyes, And we are ready to move on to the next step, which is going to be our beak. So we're going to get our yellow yarn back out actually for this. We'll actually just need a very little bit of this yellow, but I have it thread through my darning needle and we're ready to put the beak on. So it says embroider the beak between rounds 8 and 9 of the body, making sure the beak is centered with the eyes. Make 2 stitches in the same place for the beak. So that's pretty self-explanatory. Now round 8 is right here where we did our eyes. So you can go between 8 and 9. I'm going to do this like line right between the two and go into the center, and I'm just going to go across, looks about like 3 stitches to me, and we're just going to go through twice. So here's one, come out the same spot that we just came out of, and all right, there we are. I'm just going to push this through the back because that was the last stitch we needed to add, and I'm just going to cut this off. And then on this end, I'm going to cut a very little tail right here, and I'm going to weave this side in, and I'll meet you right back in 1 second. All right, she is really starting to look cute now. So we're going to do our cheeks next, which are going to be these 2 red circles here. So we need to place the cheeks between the eyes, between round 9 and 11, and use the yarn tails to sew them into place. We go over here, this was round 8, so 9, 10, 11, so right in this area, and you can really use the picture as a reference here, but it looks like on the picture, I'll show you, they're kind of off to the side here. So we can see in the picture where they're placed, they're kind of right above that little neck feather we made earlier, but I'm just gonna go ahead and go through the body here. Make sure every time you are sewing a piece on, you're going through both the piece we're sewing on and the body to really secure it into place. So now I'm just going to follow this circle shape to secure it on. So going through the top of the cheek first and then into the body. I'm going to go through about a stitch or 2 and come out the other side here on the back, just like that. And then I'll go up through the cheek over here like that. And I'm just going to follow, like I said, that shape of the circle all the way around. And that looks pretty good to me. I'm pretty happy with where that is. So now I'm just going to weave this red tail into the body so I can cut it off over here. Also, this second side of the tail I'm weaving in, I'm just going to weave it through one time and push it through, because that was actually, if you remember when we started our circle, that was from our chain and where we worked our single crochets into. So it is this back one right here. So it just needed to kind of be secured into place where I used this longer one from where we ended our circle to sew it down. You can really sew whichever side on you prefer. I just like using the outside one. It's a little bit easier for me. So let me do the other cheek off camera really quick. I'll come right back with you and we'll start the comb. Okay, now we have both of the cheeks on. I have my comb threaded, but I just wanted to show you where we're going to position the comb. So it says position comb on body perpendicular to eyes and beak. Use yarn tail to sew it in place. So we're basically creating like a mohawk for our chicken. So we're just going to pretend there's like a line going down the middle of our chicken and try to follow that as closely as possible. So I'm going to take my comb here and I'm going to actually position it this way so I can start at the front. Sometimes that's easier for me. So figure out where you want it to start. I like it to start right at the top of the head like that. And we'll just go through the top of that spiral, basically where we started first. And that'll just kind of help secure it. Once you get that first stitch secured, it's a lot easier. And then we'll go through the comb up here like that. And then the next place we'll sew it down is the stitch directly behind the one we just did. So we'll go through that stitch all the way through. And then we'll go through the comb right underneath there. Perfect. We're going to be using the bottom line of the comb here, not really going through the stitches, just the edge part here. So now we're back over on this side and we're just weaving it back and forth and trying to keep it as straight as possible. So you can move the comb out of the way too and go through the stitch directly under the last stitch we just did. Pull it through like that. And then this stitch working back will be worked through the comb there like that. Just repeat this all the way down to the end and then we'll just weave in our ends here and we'll move on to doing the wings. And again, for our extra strand of yarn that we didn't use to sew into the comb, I'm just gonna secure this one just one time through just to get it out of the way really and make sure it doesn't come flying out of the top of our project. So just one time through will be plenty fine for us. Get the extra fuzz off here. Okay, perfect. Our comb is attached and now we are ready to sew on our wings. So for our wings, we're going to position the wings on each side of the body between rows 15 and 20, making sure the curved part is facing down, and of course use our tails to sew it on. So to do this, I'm just going to take my chicken and fully put it on its side like that. And instead of honestly counting all the stitches down, I'm just going to go based on the photo again, and these just happen to be right under the feather line. So for me, that's just going to be my guide, and I'm just going to put the wing up and see where I like it. I think that looks cute. Look at it from the front too. Perfect. And just add this to my darning needle and sew this down as well. Just make sure you do double check that the curved part is facing downwards. That's the only thing you don't want to forget. And to sew this one on, I'm just going through the wing first and then out the body here like that. And that'll secure it in. Then going back up through the wing like that and down the wing into the body from here all the way across. Just going to follow the shape of the wing to secure it on. That's the easiest way to do it. And again, make sure you're not pulling too tight or else your work might begin to pucker a little bit. So you want them to stay nice and flat, the wings. So just working all the way around here. And make sure you work back up the side top here. Otherwise your wing won't be very secure because it'll flop off like that. See? So we need to secure this top part of the wing too. Okay, once you're happy with your wing and you feel like it's secure onto the body, just do your one final weaving in of the end. Have the yarn come out on the other side. Snip this off, and I'm going to repeat this for the other wing on the other side, just making sure that they line up and making sure the curved part is facing down. I'll meet you back here and we'll put on the little feet. Okay, both of my wings are secure and on, and we are into the final parts of our chicken. So for the feet, we're going to position them at the bottom of the body on round 23, leaving 6 stitches between them, and of course, again, use the yarn tails for sewing them into place. So let's do that. We want them to be about 6 stitches apart. So that means this one needs to go pretty far over here like that. You can just check too to see if you think it looks cute. I'm going to actually move mine a little bit in that way. That looks good to me. And I'm going to sew this down the same way I have been sewing down all the other parts. I'm going to do this pretty lightly too here. The reason I'm doing it kind of lightly for this is because I kind of don't want the toes to be stuck down to the piece, because in the little inspo picture, the toes are kind of ruffly almost, so they can kind of spread out. And I think that looked really cute. Of course, if you want to sew them down all the way, you totally can, but I'm kind of just securing the bottom part of the foot into place here so that it can kind of have some scrunchy toes here like that. See how they kind of can ruffle together that way? So let me cut that tail off here. Okay, and then for my second foot, I'm going to gauge it from honestly probably the top of the toe here, and I'm going to count over 6 from here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That looks pretty good. So I'm going to come straight down, use my needle actually as a little placeholder while I get the foot ready, and I can just thread it right here. Perfect. All right, and then I can use my nail to hold it just so I don't lose that spot, because that's where I liked that to be. And I'm going to sew this foot down really quick, and then we'll meet right back to finish off the tail feather. And last but certainly not least, let's place our tail feather on, and then we are all done, which is so exciting. So we need to flip our bird over to the back here, and of course going to thread my darning needle, but the instructions say to position the tail feathers on the back of the body on round 24, of course using the yarn tail to secure them into place. So that is going to be pretty much right at the bottom here. So actually you're probably better just turning the chicken all the way upside down, and we'll pop it right on the back here like that. So kind of right behind the feet, if you can see that there. Just make sure it's pretty straight. Again, you can just check the front, and we'll just sew that down a couple of times. Again, I'm going to actually leave the tail feathers kind of loose and not sewn down so that they can kind of ruffle up a little bit too, just because I think that that's really cute. So really what we're doing is just kind of securing this into place more than we are sewing these little tail feathers down themselves. Let's just make sure the base of it is in place, and that way the feathers can kind of be feathers. So there we go. I think that's enough times, and you can see the tail will kind of come off like that, which is so adorable. And I have my other end right here, which actually just works out because I'll just tie them just to secure it one more time can never have too much securing, in my opinion. So there we go. All right, I'm gonna weave in both of these ends and then let's take a final look at Clara. All right, guys, there you go. Our Clara, or Clara, whichever one you prefer. She is all complete and honestly, dare I say, looking so cute. I love how plump she is. Let me know in the comments if you had fun making this with me. I loved making it with you. Let me know if you've checked out any of Likey's other Amitami kits. I'd love to hear which other ones you're excited about making, but I think Clara is a fantastic one to make. So make sure you leave that all down in the comments for me. Like the video before you leave here today, and thank you so much for spending your time with us and making your adorable little chicken. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!